Hello, everyone. We are the MMA Island Podcast, and we are here to talk to you about my bookie.
Guys, when I gamble, I'm always looking for that extra edge. But with my bookie, they double your first deposit, so you start straight away with that extra edge.
Use our promo code MMA Island. Sign up now, claim your first deposit with my bookie, and use the extra funds to kickstart your winning season.
This weekend, UFC 268, Madison Square Garden, Kamaru Usman and Colby Covington go at it once again for the welterweight title. Kamaru Usman believes he's on the path to be the greatest ever. Colby Covington believes it's his time. But all that matters is what you think. So head to my bookie, smash the odds, and get your bets in now.
Don't just take our word for it. Head to my bookie and sign up today using our promo code MMA Island to get your money doubled and start winning today.
Good friends don't let friends win alone. So have your buddies use your referral link and be eligible to receive a 250% bonus on their first deposit. Plus, it's unlimited, so all your friends can join the party at MyBookie.
Bet anything, anytime, anywhere with my bookie. I'm Jack Kennedy, and they hit a lot harder in my opinion too.
What is up, everybody? My name is Keelan McNamara, and everyone's got a plan until they get hit with my views.
I am Hunter Boss. He just wanted to go to the distance by the looks of it, but he couldn't even do that.
And this is the MMA Island Podcast. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MMA Island Podcast. I am Jack Kennedy alongside Keelan McNamara and Hunter Boss, at it again with another great episode. Let's get started with the news. UFC 267 delivered and some. It was phenomenal. Let's talk about the co-main and main event, starting with Petr Yan versus Corey Sandhagen. Hunter, what are your thoughts?
This was one of the best title fights I've seen in a long time. If you like to watch a nice striking delight with a little bit of mixed in takedowns here and there, this is the fight for you. Corey Sandhagen came out strong in the first round, was looking like he was going to dominate the whole fight. But Petr Yan's adaptability came in and kicked in, and he was able to start absorbing some of those strikes and delivering them back. And one of the best bantamweight title fights I think we've seen in a long time. So definitely worth the watch if you guys haven't seen it. This whole card itself, yeah. UFC 267, can't believe it was free. From start to finish, it was fireworks. But to say the least, the bantamweight fight on this card was the best fight out of all the fights on the card.
Yeah, I mean, this was, as a card alone, this was unbelievable. But as a fight, dear Lord, what an amazing spectacle to watch. Yeah, there's a lot of takeaways to take from this fight. I think there's a lot more to take away than people think there is. First of all, huge congratulations to Petr Yan. You guys, to your credit, stuck with him. You were entirely right to do so. He came through the toughest fight I think he will fight in that division, and he looked pretty damn good doing it. There really is no argument to that. I really do think I have to defend Corey Sandhagen, though, because he looked really good.
Yeah.
And, I was saying this in our group as the fight was going on, because obviously we all watched this live as it was happening from Abu Dhabi, Etihad Arena. I think Corey Sandhagen almost had the opposite problem to the TJ Dillashaw fight, in that in the TJ fight, he sat down and put a lot of meat behind a lot of his strikes early on and battered TJ up badly. And he almost didn't do that in this fight. And I think that was his downfall. I think a lot of his problems from the TJ fight he corrected. He didn't back up anywhere near as much. He actually statistically out-wrestled Petr Yan, which even I did not think would happen. I don't think even Corey Sandhagen thought that would happen. But I think his problem was he didn't have enough conviction behind the openings he created. I think if he believed in his openings a bit more, threw some more elbows in there, was a lot more comfortable with the jabs and the hooks, I think he would have hurt Petr Yan, because the openings were there for a brief second or two each time. That being said, though, how good was Petr Yan, guys? I mean, he looked unbelievable. First round was Sandhagen firmly. Second round, I think Sandhagen just about took. I would make that argument. But every round from then on, Yan won, and I don't think there's a lot of argument to the contrary. Jan just looked so good, ate some shots, delivered some unbelievable shots of his own too. High guard footwork was unbelievable. Confident in his shots, never overextended, crisp, clean, to the point. Typical Piotr Jan, and a fully deserving interim champion. Yeah, this was an unbelievable fight. I'm the biggest Sanhagen fan you will meet, but big credit to Piotr Jan. One thing I will say, though, to end my lap on this, in a year and a half to 2 years' time, we will see this fight again, because this fight will be for the full title. It will be Piotr Jan against Corey Sandhagen again. And I'm really intrigued to see how that fight goes, because I think out of any real bantamweight in the title picture right now, Corey Sandhagen has got the highest ceiling of any of them. I don't think there's any limits to what this guy can do and what he can become. So my props to Piotr Jan for now. Unbelievable performance. Did everything he said he would do and everything he had to do. But watch out for this fight coming in a year or two, because I can feel this happening again.
Yeah, no, I love that. I mean, first off, what a fight it was, and what a night of fights we had. We hyped it up so much, and it exceeded the hype. It was phenomenal. And this coming event, Hunter said it's one of the best bantamweight fights we've seen, and one of the best bantamweight title fights we've seen. I think the whole perspective coming into it, at least from a lot of us, including myself, was that this is really for the real belt. This is for the people's champion right here. This is for the real, not the real belt. What I mean is the best bantamweight is going to be decided in this fight. These are the two best bantamweights in the world, and they're fighting for the interim belt. But I consider the winner of this fight really the best bantamweight in the world. And Piotr Jan did exactly what Piotr Jan does. What made this fight so good was that Corey Sandhagen did fall victim to every single Piotr Jan fight. And by that, I mean he starts off really good, and then Piotr Jan spends the entire first round just getting reads, sitting back, not really doing too much. 2, 3, 4, 5, turns it completely up. And that's every single Piotr Jan fight. That's what he did against Aljamain Sterling, Jose Aldo. Name a fight, that's what he does. And Corey Sandhagen fell victim to that. But the reason the fight was so good is because Corey Sandhagen had the cardio to match the intensity of Piotr Jan and didn't stop throwing strikes. Aljamain Sterling ended up slowing down and not really doing too much and just getting ragdolled round 4, 3, and 4. Corey Sandhagen was never at any point in this fight out of the fight. Even when he got dropped by that spinning back fist, which what a combination that was by Piotr Jan.
Vicious.
Look, that would have finished almost anybody else in that division. Corey Sandhagen stays composed even in the most intense situation, gets back up, throws a flying knee and everything. Keelan, I think your breakdown was spot on. The only thing I'd like to see from Corey Sandhagen is just to find the balance between this performance and that TJ Dillashaw performance. If he can find an in between that is championship level Corey Sandhagen. He's not there yet. Give him a year or two, and honestly, I think we could absolutely be seeing this fight again, and for the real title that time as well. My biggest takeaway at the end of this is just, what do you do with a guy like Corey Sandhagen, who is that good, but has now lost technically to TJ Dillashaw and Piotr Jan right there? Because I really think he's not out of the title contention yet, even after this fight. He's still up there and everything. It's just there's so many tough matchups to make it bantamweight and everything. Overall, beautiful for performance from Piotr Jan. We'll see if that Aljamain Sterling fight ever happens, but if it does, I think we all know who we're favoring in that. Let's move on to the main event now. Glover Teixeira. Oh my goodness. What? 42? He's the champ. Beat Jan Blachowicz. Hunter, take it away.
Massive credit to Glover Teixeira. Nobody saw this coming. Not many people really could come out and say, I thought Glover Teixeira was going to win this fight. But he was dominant. He showed what you needed to be a champion, and to be a champion at 42 nonetheless. I mean, Glover Teixeira truly showed us the story behind Rocky. I mean, he is the Rocky of the UFC right now. And to be honest, the story's even better in his eyes, because he didn't just randomly get a shot to become the champion like Rocky did. No. Glover Teixeira worked hard for 20 years to try to even just get into the country of the United States, along with fighting for the UFC, and then just years upon years of just training and hard work to get to where he is today. And that just shows you that through blood, sweat, and tears, you can become champion. You can do it. Anything is possible. And Glover Teixeira truly showed us that you can become a champion. And just to break down the fight itself, it was dominance from Glover Teixeira. You know, he hurt Jan Blachowicz in a few different moments. He went for a few different submission attempts in the first round, and then come the second round, Glover Teixeira finished him with a rear naked choke. It was beautiful work done by Glover Teixeira. Showed us why Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu is the base for most fighters in the UFC, and how it's probably the best base to have in the UFC. And Glover went out there and he got it done at 42 years old.
I mean, what do you even say? I mean, first and foremost, the most biblical level of congratulations to Glover Teixeira. Ladies and gentlemen, let me give you a stat that explains why I'm lost for words, because it's very rarely I'm ever lost for words in anything. I think we can agree on that. Glover Teixeira is not only the only fighter born in the 1970s to still be fighting in the UFC. He's the only fighter born in the 1970s to be a title holder. How insane is that? Against Polish power Jan Blachowicz. How insanely brilliant is that from Glover Teixeira? I mean, the guy is the Rocky Balboa story. He gives you belief. It's a feel-good story. And, I think we all predicted Jan to win at the beginning, but we all said that as a fan, we'd love to see Glover reach the mountaintop. And I am profoundly happy that he has, because this guy is the embodiment of the mixed martial artist. He's ground for over 20 years, as Hunter said. He's been there from the beginning. He's fought anyone, fought everyone, fought the best, never taken an easy fight in his life. And now he's the champion of the world. And there's not a more deserving guy that this could have happened to. Jan Blachowicz, I have nothing but the utmost of respect for, both as a man and as a fighter, for many, many different reasons. But this was a one-sided smacking beyond a no illusion. And no one ever predicted, not even Glover Teixeira predicted the fight would have happened like this. The second he got that early double leg, I knew Jan was in trouble. I think we all said that Jan was in trouble, because we said whoever goes out and implements their game plan in the first minute of the fight will dictate who wins this fight. And Glover looked untouchable. Hunter said it more perfectly than I ever could have. The variety of submission attempts in the first round, won the round easily. The second round, that rear naked choke was a thing of beauty. And Jan never looked like getting off his back and never looked like getting out of it. The Anaconda won, and Glover Teixeira is the champion. And I cannot bestow any more congratulations upon him than I already have, because it's the feel-good story of the year for me. Glover Teixeira, massive, massive congratulations.
Yeah, I mean, just what a year it's been, right? I mean, Charles Oliveira becoming champion after being in the UFC for so long and all of that. And now Brandon Moreno as well, absolutely. I mean, this was just unbelievable. I first off, Jan Blachowicz will be back and everything like that. We all love Jan Blachowicz. We love both of these guys. This is a fight where someone's going to have to lose and you hate that, but you're so happy for the other person that has to win. I'm still in shock about this fight, if I'm being honest with you guys. Whenever we were talking on the podcast, it was really that the main discussion was over the co-main event between Petr Yan and Corey Sandhagen. It was not the main event. The main event was supposed to be, look, Glover Teixeira has worked his way up and somehow he's got a title shot at 42 years old. And that in itself is one of the greatest accomplishments ever. Glover Teixeira said no. He went out there and absolutely dominated Jan Blachowicz, who just previously dominated who many people see as the future of the UFC in Israel Adesanya. It's unbelievable. It's truly one of the greatest accomplishments I think we've ever seen in the UFC. I really think so. It was historic. Everyone's happy for Glover Teixeira. How could you not be? And just what a beautiful performance. He got him down. Jan Blachowicz looked very, very scared of the takedown from the beginning. I think in the first round, whenever he wouldn't let his hands go and just kind of went back, he was almost inviting the takedown there. And then Glover Teixeira did get the takedown. And from that point, just took over. So just what a performance by Glover Teixeira. It's inspiring, honestly. I think that's the word you could say. And I mean, like, what else can you say? It's unbelievable. It's seriously unbelievable what he did and what he accomplished. And the fact also, I'm also shocked that he's defending his belt. He's going to be fighting Yuri Prochazka. He said, I thought he was going to retire. I thought he was going to be like, okay, I reached the top. I'm going to retire. Perfect way to go out. No, he's like, let me take on the new light heavyweight contender that everybody's talking about in Yuri Prochazka. And for that, it's even crazier. So Glover Teixeira, you are the man, and massive congratulations. Yeah.
It's why we love our sport. It really is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. It's madness. I love it. So great fights. Let's move on to best of the best. And today we're talking about the best fighter to never win a UFC title. Glover Teixeira would have been on this list, but he is the champion now. Hunter, starting with you. Who do you think is the best fighter to never win a UFC title?
All right, guys. Now, my answer is probably a little bit unorthodox than what you guys were probably going to be expecting, because I did a little bit of research and I looked through like a few different lists, and all these lists didn't mention this fighter. So I like to say that this is quite unique, I want to say. So the fighter I'm going to mention is Chad Mendes. I think Chad Mendes is the best fighter in the UFC that didn't win a title for a few different reasons. His wrestling is unparalleled. I mean, he trained at Team Alpha Male, which is one of the best wrestling, just straight gyms in the country. And then his striking, he had so much power behind his fists. You know, he TKO'd a lot of people and he just out wrestled almost everyone. But when it comes to his losses, he's only ever lost to champions. That's the only thing. He's never lost to someone who's not gone to become a champion or already was the champion. And then that in my eyes, that shows me that this guy is the closest thing to a champion.
Yeah.
If he will beat everyone but a champion, then he is not a champion, but the closest thing to it. So Chad Mendes, for me, definitely the best fighter in the UFC who never got to hold a belt.
Yeah, I like that a lot. Chad Mendes is a very good pick, actually. There's so many great fighters who've never won a world title in the UFC. It's almost really, really strange to think. I think my pick, I don't know if this is more orthodox or not, actually, because Chad Mendes is such a unique position. I think Uriah Faber.
Oh, I like Uriah a lot.
I love that.
Yeah. You know, people underestimate how good the California kid really was. You know, it's kind of weird because Uriah came at a segue, a crossroads of different generations of fans. So we have a current generation of fans who can actually appreciate how great Uriah Faber was back in the day. You know, he was so good as a fighter, so advanced, so skilled. His wrestling was elite. His boxing was unbelievable. And unfortunately, when it came to the UFC, he never just quite got to the mountaintop. You know, it was always someone like Dominic Cruz who pushed him back down the pecking order. And sadly, he never quite just made the mountaintop, you know, the way Glover Teixeira literally just has. So there are many great fighters that I could put in this, and all of them would be equally deserving for everything they've given to us. But for me, it's Uriah Faber.
If I could just comment on that real quick. Yeah. Uriah Faber does have the most title attempts with 4. So it's a great call.
Yeah, I mean, these are some great answers. I actually wasn't expecting either of those. And I love them. I'm going to go with maybe a more obvious one. I'm going to pick Cowboy Cerrone, Donald Cerrone.
Very good.
What he did in the UFC, I mean, obviously he just had one of his records broken by Jim Miller this past fight week, but he's fought in the UFC so many times. And it's just, I was actually, just because I was bored, I was watching Cowboy Cerrone highlights, just that vintage head kick that he would land, the striking. It's just the most, when you think of just UFC kickboxing, UFC stand-up, in my brain, I think of orange shorts, Cowboy Cerrone throwing that roundhouse head kick, that combination he landed where it was jab, cross, jab, head kick. It was perfect. You know, everything like that. He never quite reached it. Closest he got, I think, was against Rafael dos Anjos whenever he did attempt the second time for a title. And it's just, I think he's a guy that could beat anybody on any given day. I really think at that point in time, I truly believe that he was the better fighter than Rafael dos Anjos. But I think that just the moment always got to Donald Cerrone. He would climb the mountaintop, but then get there, and he could never quite pull through. And that doesn't take away from anything else he did in his career, because he's just a phenomenal, and that's why he's on this list. And then another one that I want to shout out as well is Alexander Gustafsson. who I would put up there as well.
That's good.
Just from the names that he beat, I mean, he brutally finished Glover Teixeira back in the day. He worked his way up. In my opinion, he beat John Jones. I will stand behind that. He and even if he didn't, he challenged him to arguably his toughest test ever. He went out there and did the same thing to DC. Daniel Cormier, after that fight, and even whenever he relives it today, was like, that was the most challenging moment in my life, was facing Alexander Gustafsson, because that guy brings out the champion and everybody, because he is a champion. He never quite reached the top, but that guy was always up there. So my two I want to shout out, Donald Cerrone and Alex the Mauler Gustafsson, I think, and all those guys. I mean, Chad Mendes, Uriah Faber, those were all phenomenal picks, and there's so many good fighters who never quite reached the top in the UFC, but deserve so much recognition for sure. Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's move on to the discussion of the week. And today we're talking now, yes, this is post-Halloween, and whenever this comes out, it'll be 2 days post-Halloween. However, this is relating to UFC 267 as well, where we saw, in my opinion, the worst refereeing performance I have ever seen in my entire life. The only word to describe it is scary. So, what is the scariest moment in UFC history? Hunter, starting with you.
For me, also probably a little bit unorthodox here. The scariest moment I've seen inside the octagon had to be the last 2 minutes of Peter Yan versus Jose Aldo.
Yeah.
When he was just teeing off on Jose Aldo's head, and he had him down on the ground and just straight punching him for 2 minutes straight. And the ref just wasn't stopping the fight. And he just
the ref for that?
let him beat up on the champion. I can't remember who the ref was.
Herzog.
I don't know. Herzog usually doesn't leave it to that late.
I don't know. Let me look.
I don't know. I'm not sure who it was.
I actually think it was Herb Dean. I think you're right.
It might have been Herb. It could have been Herb. But this was one of the scariest moments, because this fighter, Jose Aldo wasn't going to quit. He never quits. He was literally the featherweight champion. He has the heart of a champion in him. He does not quit. But it is not the fighter's choice to decide when to stop the fight. It is the referee's choice in when to stop the fight. And since the fight was not being stopped, Jose Aldo received so much unnecessary punishment from Peter Yan that it looked like he was murdering the man. Like, I showed this fight to one of my roommates earlier, and he thought like this was illegal, like to let someone just get beat up like that for 2.5 minutes straight and not really intelligently defending himself. I mean, he was curled up in the fetus position like this, and Yan was just hitting his ear and a little bit behind the ear sometimes with some illegal shots the entire time, the entirety of it. And it was just brutal. It was that is the number one word to summarize it. It was a brutal fight to watch.
Yeah, I mean, that is I don't want to use the word great in relation to it, but it's an extremely appropriate pick. And by the way, before I get on to my pick, that was one of the most disgraceful refereeing performances I have ever seen.
It was Leon Roberts was the referee. I just looked it up. Was the referee of Peter Yan versus Aldo.
Seems about right. I can't recognize the name, so yeah.
He's done like 2 fights, yeah,
exactly. And I hope he never gets another one either. By the way, how Benoit Saint-Denis is still alive, I do not know. For the love of God, I hope that referee's never allowed in a building where there's a mixed martial arts event again, because Hunter just said that perfectly. It's not the job of the fighter to know when to quit. The job of the referee is to protect the fighter when the fighter can't protect themselves. I mean, this is why I stuck up so heavily for the referee who stopped the BMF title fight, because of things like this. Anything before that is negligence on your part and nothing else. So shame on that referee, and I hope he's never seen again. And that's all I'm going to say about that. I rant over at the very least anyway. Now on to my pick for the scariest moment inside the... And mine's not actually a fight card. Mine's the Ultimate Fighter. And mine is Uriah Hall's head kick. I mean, I don't even need to explain why this is so bad. I mean, Ryan Sala, the guy he was fighting, very been up and down, side to side. Uriah Hall blasts him out of nowhere with a head kick from Tekken. And I honestly thought his opponent was dead for about 30 seconds. I genuinely thought he was. Thank God Ryan Salah was all right. And Uriah Hall was never the same for a really, really long time after it. So just go and watch it if you don't believe me, because you have to see it. For me, that's my pick.
Oh yeah, that's a great pick. That has to be up there for scariest moment, is seeing something like that. Another one you could put is the Francis Ngannou uppercut over Overeem is scariest moment, stuff like that as well. Yeah. So about that refereeing performance, I want to touch on that first from 267. First off, I'm very happy they fired the referee. He won't be refereeing again. The thing. The Saint Denis guy, he is a French special forces guy. So he was the equivalent, what they were saying, of a Navy SEAL, but for France, obviously. So that dude will never quit. Like, that guy it's not in him to quit. Even if he's not aware of what's going on around him, he will keep going forward, which is why he got like a takedown at the end of the fight, even though his face was non-existent at that point. Yes, that referee. And then also the groin shot point taken away, and then not calling in the doctor for the eye poke.
It was dumb. It was all dumb.
Mark Goddard was yelling at him from the side. It was scary to watch. So yeah, for me, the scariest moment in the octagon, I am gonna go back to Anderson Silva versus Chris Weidman 2, the first leg break. I think that's it for me. That's obviously we've seen it 2 times now, 2.5. I guess we count Connor a little bit. But especially Chris Weidman had it happen to himself later on. But that first one, especially from Anderson Silva, first time ever seeing it, you don't know what happened until you watch the replay, and they show it in super slow-mo, and you see it wrap around his leg. It's just like, oh man, it was horrible. It was very horrible, and it was scary because you didn't know what was going to happen to Anderson Silva, the guy that was literally untouchable. Lost to Chris Weidman, comes back. This is a comeback fight. It's doing okay, and then that happens. I think that was seriously the scariest moment I've ever seen in the UFC, and ever, to be honest with you. That's. These are moments you never want to see again, unless we're talking about a great knockout, but we haven't really talked about that too much. But terrible refereeing performances and horrible injuries, I think, are just as a viewer and as a fighter, the scariest thing you could see in MMA. And thankfully, we don't see it too often. And hopefully, in today's day and age, whenever we do see it, referees like that will get fired, and we try and prevent injuries as much as possible. But yeah, I think those are some great picks for scariest moment. Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, just to touch on that for a second, that Anderson Silva leg break, you just say the words and I can hear the commentary coming back. I can see it and I can hear it, and it never gets any easier to process it. That's how you know that's a scary moment, ladies and gentlemen. To be honest with you, and I'm not trying to take a controversial position on this or anything, I very much distinguish Connor's leg break from Anderson's and Chris's, because with the greatest of respect, and we've covered this in great detail already, I won't go over old ground, Connor's was more poetic justice because he made really dark threats against Dustin before the fight. Anderson and Chris never did that to each other. It never even came close to that. And neither of those guys deserved what happened to them because they were never the same afterwards. I know this was in no way the point that was intended to be made, but I don't think Connor's is worthy of being in the same category as theirs, because I think theirs were freak accidents and Connor's was just out of pure arrogance and evil that has happened to him. So that's just the last point that I'll make on that.
Yeah, I mean, that's interesting. The way I was more referring to is the type of injuries, because that hit theirs
exactly
directly on the shin, and Connor's was more lower ankle area is where it snapped. So both technically the same, but Connor's is way easier to recover from than Chris Weidman's or Anderson Silva's. But yeah, hey, absolutely. And great podcast, everybody. Thank you so much for listening. As always, make sure to like and subscribe on YouTube. You can listen to us everywhere, literally everywhere, including iTunes and Spotify. Make sure to follow us on Instagram at MMA.island and our website, MMAisland.net. Big shout out to our sponsors, MyBookie, bet UFC 268 through them this week. Here's our promo code MMA Island to get started today. Again, thank you everyone so much for listening. Great podcast, guys.
Thank you, guys.
Brilliant. Thank you, everybody.